Padding is one of the most used SwiftUI view modifiers, but in these three cases, there are better alternatives. Let's have a look. Our first example is about stacks. So I've decided to demonstrate this with a V stack, but the same applies to an H stack. Z stacks don't really count because they don't have this issue, but let's have a look at what this is about. So in our example, we have a top element and a bottom element. So just two pieces of text. And I want to ensure a padding or a spacing between them of 16 points. So I've added this padding.bottom 16 modifier here to the top element. And as you can see in the preview, there are 16 points of spacing added to the top element, which pushes away the bottom element. Now, this might seem fine, and in some use cases it might also be, but stacks especially have a much easier solution to apply a spacing between two views. And for that example, we can get rid of this .bottom padding here. And we need to have a look at the initializer of our VStack. Currently, we only pass this closure with the two subviews to the initializer, because as you probably know, these curly braces are a trailing closure, and actually they are part of the initializer. So if we look at the VStack initializer, the one that we are using here is called content. So in the long syntax, this is what it actually looks like without the trailing closure. We are not going to care about this content. We care about another argument that you can pass here, which is the spacing. By default, this varies. So depending on where you place your VStack and which platform you're developing for, the default value for spacing changes. Currently for iOS 26, at least in the simulator that I'm running here, I've found out that it's set to 2 as the default spacing. We can quickly make a little comparison here for you to find out more about this. So if we get rid of the spacing in our second VStack, if you're finding this video helpful so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel to not miss any future content about SwiftUI and iOS development. And we perhaps apply some background colors to those. So let's say this one is green and the first one, let's color that one in red. And then we can see exactly how large they are. So now we can see with a spacing of 2 and with no spacing set at all, they are exactly the same size. So this is just a reference for you. This spacing is the same thing as the bottom padding that we applied to the topmost view, but of course it applies to every space between every view. So if we just set this to 2, which is the default, plus 16, which we wanted to add with our padding view modifier before. So this would be a spacing of 18. And this is then the exact same layout as before. So if we add our padding back here, we say a bottom padding of 16. And this is interesting. Now the 16 is actually larger than the 18. So I'm not sure how this makes sense. So 18 should probably be something more like 22 or 24. Yeah, looks like it's 24. It might be 23 in the end. So as I said, the default spacing value here changes depending on how you use VStack, but still I think it makes a lot of sense to just use the spacing as a parameter for the VStack. So I like to do my spacing in multiples of 4 or 8. So in this case, I would do 24 instead of 23 and just accept that it's 1 point larger. This of course also depends on the screen's resolution and screen size. So this was the first example. Use the spacing argument for stacks instead of applying a padding modifier to the elements to space them apart. In our second example, we'll have a look at scroll view, because you often have this issue where your scroll view's content is pressed right onto the edge of the screen horizontally, and then your scroll indicator on the trailing edge will cover your scroll content. So this is of course an issue, and people often just add a padding view modifier, be that just a regular padding or a horizontal padding, to the entire scroll view to move the content away from the edges. But the problem here is that the scroll indicator also moves away from the edge and is still covering the content. Luckily, there is a pretty new view modifier that we can use instead, and it's even easier to fix this problem than the spacing problem in stacks. So instead of padding, we will be using the content margins view modifier. And we'll make sure to use this one with 2 arguments. So first of all, we have to set the length, and this is the amount of spacing we want. So let's say 16, because this is the default value for padding. So this should behave the same. And then here we can specify a content margin placement. And we'll just say dot. And here you can see you can either move around the scroll indicators or you can move around the scroll content. So in this case, now you can see that our scroll view actually takes up the entire horizontal width, which is indicated by this green background, but the scroll content is inset by 16 points on the horizontal edge. And comparing with removing this modifier, it's actually also inset in the top edge, but only for the first element, and also the bottom edge only for the last element. And another scrolling related example is the third case, in which you should probably avoid using the padding view modifier and opt for a different solution instead. This time we're not using a scroll view, we're actually using a list. Inside of this list I've placed a for each, but as you probably know, you could also pull this into the list initializer. In this example, I thought it's a bit more explicit this way. Here we have some text as our list rows, and I've added a leading padding to move the text away from the leading edge. And as you can see, it's now aligned 16 points away from the leading edge. Marking or selecting this text again here, you can also see, let's call it the frame of this view, to be extended by 16 points. And in this case, I would say it's actually fine to use padding, but there is a more contextual view modifier that you should apply here, because you're not really adding a padding. You're trying to move the view around instead of adding spacing around it, right? What you want to do is you want to inset it from the start of the list row instead of adding some spacing between it and another element. That's what padding is for. So instead of padding, we will be using a modifier called list row insets. There are many different list row modifiers, and you can play around with these in your own time. For example, to configure these separators here regarding their visibility and their color. Also, you can use list row background to change the background of this list row, but we will be caring about list row insets. There are 2 ways to create these. The first way is to use edge insets. The second way is to specify a list of edges and then set a length. So we'll be using this second way because it's just simpler if you only care about one edge. And here we will say we care about the leading edge and we want a 16 point inset. But as you can see, 16 points doesn't actually behave the same as a padding of 16 does, because a padding of 16 actually moved us in way further. And that's because 16 is sort of the default value if you don't use this modifier. So what does that mean? Let's set it to 0, for example, and then you can see the list rows are moved to the very edge of the list. So this is actually truly a 0 inset. And then 16 in this example is the default inset that behaves exactly the same as getting rid of this view modifier. So if we want to have our previous 16 padding, we have to add it here. So that would lead us to a 32 inset. And let's quickly add the padding again just to compare. So we wanted to have a leading padding of 16. So this is what our list row inset of 32 looks like. Remember that. And this is how our padding of 16 looks like. So it's exactly behaving the same way. Let me know with a comment if there are any other ways where you would avoid using the padding view modifier and opt for a different alternative. Comment them below the video.